Hello, my name is Julian Steadman. I'm one of the lay ministers in the Crickhowell area. I'd like to welcome you to our fourth midweek magazine programme. We've changed the title to Telusk Forum, but it still involves Jeremy and Julian and is for everyone in the Usk Valley. This week our main focus is on prayer, but first Rana will talk to us about his vision for the churches after the pandemic. Next, we hear from Rennie about how members of the churches are invited to a new opportunity to pray together on Friday mornings. The Kellings are our CMS missionaries in Jordan. They've sent us a video from their home. Jeremy and Nicci have been involved with setting up prayer spaces for some time now. I'll talk to Jeremy, who will introduce one of them. Finally, the Large family introduce a new song for Pentecost. Earlier this week, when I met Rana, I congratulated him on completing 3 years as rector of Crickhowell and as ministry area leader for the St Catug ministry area. But I also congratulated him on his recent appointment as the area dean for Greater Brecon, and I asked him first what those responsibilities would involve. Rana.
Thank you very much. I think it has been a privilege to work with many people in our churches in St. Catug ministry area and working as a team. I had such a wonderful experience of my own ministerial career, which has led me towards another responsibility and which I have happily taken. As you can understand, it's quite a big responsibility, to be the area dean of Greater Brecon Deanery. And the main responsibilities which historically area deans used to carry had already been taken by the ministry areas. But still, it is an historical office. The main purpose that is there is to support the bishop and archdeacon as a visible sign serving the church's unity and continuity in apostolic life, mission and ministry in the diocese. We are 4 area deans in the diocese of Swansea and Brecon. I'll be one of the area deans.
Thank you very much. Sounds like quite another additional challenge for you. But of course, we're in a time of uncertainty at the moment. And do you have any long-term or short-term vision for Crickhowell Parish and the ministry area here?
Yeah, 3 years ago, when I came, I had a lot of meetings with various individuals and groups in our churches, especially here in St. Edmund's Church. And at that time, 3 years ago, I came up with 3 step lines for my own guidelines, but also vision for the church. And these 3 step lines, one of these step lines was Church for Tomorrow. I think if we are always working for the church today, we may not be able to cope with the challenges which definitely ask for various changes. If we have this thing in our mind and in our heart, we are trying to we are trying to make our church a church for tomorrow, then definitely whatever the situations are, whether it is coronavirus, whether it is something else, we won't be afraid of the change because we are already working on church for tomorrow. If we are working for church for everyone, church for tomorrow, and church everywhere. 3 years ago, when I conceived this vision, church everywhere, it was quite clear in my mind how we will be using social media and information technology and all these resources which are available. I'm 100% sure the post-coronavirus church will be much more stronger because those churches and church by at large, we have happily faced the challenges. Our buildings are locked down, but throughout the country, throughout the world, and even churches like our smaller churches, we are happily doing whatever we can with our limited resources and trying to reach out people. And it's not we are only kind of churches and institutions of status quo now. We are trying to create new avenues for our ministries. We are trying to reach out new people. For example, in our own ministry area, we have Sunday service which is online available for people who are members of our churches and those who are not members of our churches. And we have a midweek magazine, which is absolutely helping a lot for people to know what the churches are doing in this area. And then we have various other groups, youth, children, a lot going on. And then we have people in our ministry area who have not done before, ringing on a regular basis to people and asking how they are. And we are not ringing to those people to whom we know. Sometimes those people come to our loops who are not members of our churches. So it's quite a new and a different, I would say, areas which our churches are exploring. Some of these things will stay even after the lockdown is lifted. Not sure which are the things which will stay for a longer term, but definitely the excessive use of internet, modern technology is something which churches has happily accepted to use. Some of our churches are already into these things. For example, St. Edmund's Church, Clangatta Church, we have a very active Facebook pages, but these Facebook pages, how bit more proactively we will be using in future. So these are the things which I think we will have to look into.
Thank you, Rana. Ian Rees, in his book about churches and changing, suggested that to be confident we needed to change certain things in our churches. You've already intimated one or two. Have you got any more things that you think we can do to help change?
I think the biggest problem or the biggest challenge for the church for the last many decades has been to resist the change. I don't think we should have a fear of the change. Rather, we should find opportunities because if we are not able to bring changes inside our building, but the world outside the building are already changed. But this concept which we have developed, I myself have changed the name of the YouTube channel for our church, Church Without Walls. It's the concept which is being developed everywhere, and people in their own context. If you go in the United States, if you go to South Korea, if you go to even smallest places in the world, you will see how much load internet has accepted from various other non-church organizations. But churches are not slow, churches are not passive, churches are exploring new things. But I think we here in Wales, in our own diocese, in our own ministry area, in our own deanery, we should not resist the change. Now there is no point, you can't, because you can only bring change by accepting change. And change doesn't mean that we will just chuck out all our traditions and we will throw them on the streets, but how we can make them more useful. For example, in our services, every Sunday we see a new building. I have just come back from the recording for the online service from Petelusk, one of the very attractive small church buildings which has a significant historical and spiritual significance in our area. So all our church buildings and people who have been coming and the resources we have, we just need to work out how we will be using these resources which we already have, and how we will allow new things to come and to work in and through us. And that is what really we are doing now.
Well, thank you very much, Rana. We could talk about this for a long time, I'm sure, but there will be other opportunities, I guess, in future weeks to have a continued conversation on these matters. Hi, Rennie. It's great to welcome you to the show this week. And we're going to talk a little bit about prayer, which I know is very close to your heart. And just the first question I'd like to ask you, members of the St. Ed's congregation have been meeting for prayer every Tuesday morning for something like 4 years. Why were the meetings started up, and how effective do you think it's been to meet together like that?
Well, we were in big trouble 4 years ago. We've been 6 months in an interregnum, and we badly needed a new rector. And Sally asked me, he said, the time has come that we have to actually start praying about this. So that was how it all started.
And so you've been meeting on Tuesday mornings, is that right? A group, and it's been a growing thing as well, hasn't it?
Yes, so we started off with about 4 people every Tuesday morning at 8:30, and the numbers gradually grew. We had to move out of the Lady Chapel into a larger space, and just before lockdown, we were about 10 or 12 people every day, every Tuesday.
And how effective do you think it's been? Have you seen any answers to the prayers that you've been making?
Oh my goodness. Our main reason for praying in the first place was we needed a rector badly. And it was a big surprise, actually, how it all came together. And it was just a year later that Rana was inducted as our rector and ministry team leader.
So after that, we could just relax, could we? And just the job has been done, and no more prayer needed.
Actually, Rana very much appreciated that we'd prayed for him, but he said, "Don't stop now." He said, "Carry on with the good work."
So it's been a very positive time then to pray together every week, because prayer sometimes seems quite hard work, doesn't it?
Yes, I think the back of it all, I think the thing that we've learned is that to pray with expectation, expect God to answer your prayers, and my goodness, that has happened.
Great. Well, I understand you're now launching a new venture. We've been meeting on Tuesday mornings, which is great, but you're now thinking of setting up another group on a Friday. Well, what's that all about then?
Well, once again, Sally asked me if we could start a second prayer meeting in the week. The way it works is that if she can't be there for the meeting, then I take it, so we share the leadership on it. But we are concerned about, we're in a very difficult situation with this lockdown. We've in effect moved from church onto the internet, and that has all sorts of implications for us. And really the idea is that we should pray about the way that we use this time and try to find God's will and way through all of this.
Right. And so I guess people will be unfamiliar with using Zoom. Zoom is the technology that we use to pray together. How easy do you find it? And have you got any tips? And how do people find the link and the password, people from the ministry area who might like to join in?
At first sight, it seems complicated. Once you've got the hang of it, it's actually not too difficult to use. But there are things that you can learn along the way. But if anybody wants to join the group, if they contact either me or Sally, we can bring through the things that they need to know and enable them to actually be able to use Zoom and get to be a part of the meeting.
Well, thank you very
9 o'clock
much.
on Friday morning.
Great, great. Well, there we are, an invitation to join in for prayer together, not just for St Edmund's Church, but across the whole ministry area. And if you need information on this, talk to Rennie or Sally, and they'll give you the link and help you to find a way into the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian.
St Edmund's Church is partnered with a couple who are missionaries in Jordan, Fiona and Joel Kelling. We were hoping that they would visit us this summer. They were going to come home, have a second child, and visit some of the churches who are partnered with them. But because of the coronavirus, their plans, like many other people's plans, have had to change. And they're going to tell us what is happening with them at the moment.
Hi, I'm Fiona.
And I'm Joel, and we're the Kellings. We're Church Mission Society mission partners here in Amman, Jordan. Today we're filming during the Eid holiday at the end of Ramadan, so it's very quiet outside. But it's also quiet outside because we're under full curfew at the moment. That's one of the experiences we're having under the lockdown conditions people are facing all over the world at this point in time. We feel that Jordan's actually handled the situation really well. We're still dealing with fewer than 1,000 cases in total and fewer than 10 deaths. But what it has meant is change for all of us, change for our plans, change for our day-to-day experiences. And Fiona's going to talk a little bit more about that now.
So we were originally planning to be back in the UK at this point because I'm currently just a few weeks off of my due date from our second child. Our first child's currently asleep. And we were planning to be back in the UK to visit different churches as well as for the birth. But Jordan closed the airport very early on, back in March, and as the last date that I was going to be allowed to fly approached, we had to make a difficult decision whether to try and get on one of the embassy arranged flights back to the UK or whether to stay in Jordan and give birth here. And so after a lot of thinking and praying and taking various different factors into account, such as the fact that we wouldn't be able to do the church visits that we'd been planning, a lot of the other work and family events that we wanted to attend had been postponed or cancelled. The risk is a lot higher than it is in the UK than it is here, and we weren't sure when we would be able to come back to Jordan. So in the end we decided that even though it was a big change of plans for us, that we would stay here for the birth. So we're still a bit sad really that we won't have any family around and that we probably won't see them for a good while, and they won't meet the new baby. But the whole situation has also highlighted the sense of community that we have and belonging here, both to our church family and within the area that we live. And we've been really blessed because we had left a lot of our baby stuff in the UK in anticipation of being there. And so it's actually been really encouraging to see how people have been very generous in offering help to provide us with kind of newborn baby clothes and all the other necessary stuff that we've needed.
And if we'd returned, we don't know when we would have been able to come back to Jordan, and that played a role in some of the decisions we've made. As Fiona said, our community's here. This is where we feel that we belong. This is where we feel called to. There are going to be a lot of needs everywhere in the world, and the needs that we can be involved in helping respond to as part of the church by being here are greater than we could do being stuck at my parents' house back home. Already under lockdown, we've been working between the different churches that we work with here to provide essential foods and basic items to the large refugee community that exists here in Jordan, helping them at a time when they're unable to work, whether illegally or illegally. There's just no work out there at the moment. And I think our hope is that as things begin to open up here, we're able to continue the work that we feel that we've been called to do here, to support the church where it is in the Middle East, and to respond to human need with loving service as best we can.
Well, hi, Jeremy. Welcome to the
Hello.
program. It's really good to have you here today. And we're going to talk a little bit about prayer spaces. Now, that's something that I don't know much about. So perhaps, Jeremy, you could just spell out a little bit about what prayer spaces are all about.
Prayer spaces came from the 24/7 prayer movement. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a way to give the opportunity for children in school to learn how to pray if they want. But it also means that they can articulate feelings and thoughts, hopes, desires, fears, whatever, in a way which actually is not prayer. So from the point of view of the culture of the school, if the children are interested in God, or if the school is a Christian school or a church school, then we can simply talk about prayer. If the school is not a Christian school, if the children are not interested in the notion of God, or if their parents have some objection to that, the children are simply articulating their thoughts and their feelings, and it works equally well either way. So from that point of view, it's flexibility, and the fact it's not at all dogmatic, fits very neatly into contemporary educational culture.
Okay, thank you. So where did you first get the idea for prayer spaces? Is it something that came out from this country or somewhere else?
It came out of the 24/7 prayer movement, and I first saw it at 2004 when I went to New Wine. And something about the idea just caught my imagination.
And basically, until we did it recently, I've been just waiting for the opportunity to do it ever since then. So I must have sat on it for about more than 10 years.
And you've introduced it in the local schools, I think. Do you want to say a little bit about which schools you've been to and how it's been received there?
Yeah, we first went to Bryn St Mary's Church in Wales Primary School, which is a school with which I have a good relationship anyway. Mark Winchester, the predecessor priest in Bryn obviously went in there weekly because it was a church school and it's his parish. And since his retirement, I've, if you like, taken his place in attending the school regularly as representing the church in Wales. So I've got a good relationship there anyway. It's a church school, so they're expecting some kind of church activity there. And therefore, that seemed the ideal place to trial the idea. Wonderfully, it drew a number of members of the congregation at Bryn as well as from around the ministry area, and from all over the place, actually. So it's been a really good experience to get the team together from all over the area, from different congregations, especially from Bryn and it worked very, very well inside the school there. And then we've done it in Gilwan, which is not a church school, and in Llamadog, which is a church school, and it's worked just as well in both of them.
I think some parents might be rather suspicious of what a prayer space is. Have you found anybody who's actually opposed it or been concerned about it? And what have you done about that?
I've met opposition from people with quite a strong antipathy to the church and to Christianity in Gilwan, not in the context of prayer spaces, but with other things. So therefore, I'm very conscious that we cannot assume that people will simply accept us for what we are, and we can't assume that people will embrace the ideas we're presenting. Therefore, we have to be very tactful and very diplomatic and gracious, and we have to understand that we are guests in the school, we are visitors, and we have to do everything strictly on their terms. And so long as we do that, I find we can work well together. So long as we understand that we are guests and visitors. And I think the genius of the prayer space concept is that it is not in the least dogmatic. We're not telling the children what to think. We're, if you like, helping them to think in such a way that if they want to think about God, they can do so. If they don't want to think about God, they don't need to. But the actual benefit of the prayer space activities will work for everyone, irrespective of what's going through their heads.
Thank you very much. I understand you've been doing some work for the diocese recently. Could you give us some information on that, how that's going? Thank you.
Yeah, John Meredith, who was a teacher at St Mary's Church in Wales Primary School in Bryn became the diocesan education officer. And he invited Nicci to record something. It was actually pretty vague. I think he just wanted something to put on YouTube because of the lockdown, because of our inability to actually be with the children and to do their normal things. He felt the need to put something that would be accessible to the children at home. So we recorded a prayer space, the first one. It's a bit rough, I have to say. All kinds of things were not particularly well done, but it worked jolly well. It's had over 400 views. It was the first thing John put up on the Diocesan Education channel on YouTube, and we've done another 3 since then.
Well, that sounds absolutely great, and we're going to have a chance to see one of the earlier prayer spaces that you put together. I think this is one using a stone, is that right, Jeremy?
That's right, yeah. It's the first one we did. It's the simplest and it's the shortest.
Okay,
and it's also the roughest.
That's great. Thank you very much for giving us some background, and we look forward now to viewing the prayer space together. Thank you.
Hello everyone. This is a chance to stop and think about everything that's happening to you at such a time as this. It's a chance to put your thoughts into actions, help you understand what's going on inside. We'll have a different activity each week to help you think about these things. This week, we'll think about the people we haven't seen for a while, people we care about. Even though we can't see them, we can create a space to remember them.
So what we do first, we find a little corner in the room. This is part of our living room. And we can lay out a cloth. This is a woolen shawl from the cupboard. And then we might take a stone, put out a couple of little lights. These are little electric candles. Then we take a stone. And we can feel the weight of the stone in our hands, and we can think about someone we care about. Then we can take a pen and we can write the name of someone we care about on the stone. And we can lift up the stone and we can think about them. We can remember them. We can think about how we care for them. We can think about what we would like for them, what we would hope for them, and we could think about what we'd like to do if we were with them, and when we might see them again. And then we can put it down. And we might invite someone to come as well. And then they too could write the name of someone they care about, or they might draw a picture of someone they care about, a picture to represent them. And then with a little sketch done, we can just pick up the stone and we can think about them. We can think about how we care about them, what we want for them, what we'd like to do with them if we could see them, and then we can put the stone down. And then, if you like, you might get a camera or a phone. And you could take a picture. And then, what you might do is, you could get that picture and then you could send it by email, by WhatsApp, or you could text it or something to whoever it is that you're thinking about. That way you can show them that you think about them, that you care about them, and even though you're not with them, you remember them.
In this time of lockdown, we've been really lucky here because we've had Josh's keyboard at home, and all of us in this family are quite musical, and we have Gaetan with his guitar, Beck singing, and we've been recording for services, Simon with his viola, etc. And I've been particularly blessed because if I want to worship God and have a good sing on my own, then I can just put on the headphones and then I can get on with my worship time without disturbing the rest of the house. We've chosen one song today. We recorded it while we were preparing for the service on Sunday. This is Keith and Kristen Getty and Stuart Townend's song, Hear the Call of the Kingdom. And it reminds us about God's unfailing love for us at this time, at all times, and that he is the King of Heaven and that he is in charge of everything that is going on. It also reminds us that we are called to be children of light, and in this time of darkness and uncertainty, it's really important that the message of Christ as light of the world gets through to the world around us, and that the message of God's healing is broadcast abroad